Now the preparation time is over. Now we'd like to open the round for judge test in Wakaba Cup 2015. The motion for the round is this house would introduce great retention in compulsory education. And I'd like to call up Prime Minister to deliver a constructive speech within 7 minutes. Here, here.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In the status quo, students' academic ability is becoming low. To protect this kind of students' academic ability, as government, we have to incentivize these students. To incentivize these students, the grade retention is the very best way and necessity way to incentivize the students to study hard. So we are proud to support. I'm going to talk about 2 points. Firstly, why in the status quo students' academic ability is becoming low. And second point, after taking this proposal, how the academic ability become high. I will explain one by one. Before that, I have 2 models in this debate. Firstly, how to judge the grade retention is we give the several tests to the students and we have and minimum under minimum level academic ability, we have to give the grade retention to these students. And second point, the student and the compulsory education means that elementary schools from elementary school students to junior high school students. This is our target. So let's move on to our argument. Firstly, why in the status quo students' academic ability is becoming low? There is 3 reasons. Firstly, the student didn't feel urgent. The student feeling. The student didn't feel the urgent problem. My academic ability is low is not so urgent problem for the students. Students just seek the current benefit and they cannot consider about the future harm or future benefit, and they have no enough they have enough information about how compulsory education is important or how so the students is because of immature, so they cannot feel the academic ability lowering as a very urgent problem. That's why so the students have no predictable ability, can't predictable. So that's why they didn't study. And also, second point is that this in the status quo current system is that when the students have minimum level academic ability, but automatically they become high grade. That's why the students is neglect to study. And third point, the parents or some parents or surrounding people also cannot notice about how the compulsory education is important, and because of there is no grade retention or no force system to force students to study. Such kind of system doesn't exist in the status quo. That's why the parents also not to force to the students, or you have to, especially the young age, you have to play around or something like that. Such kind of the parents or surrounding people also exist. That's why another actor also don't force students to study. That's why in the status quo students don't study hard. And why it is so harmful is that what is the compulsory education mean? It means that all base ability for all matter. For example, mathematics how to read a book, or how to understand the feeling of auta, or such kind of, and also the what is a human body, or something like it. This is very fundamental ability, and it is basic ability for the future. For example, they cannot get enough ability. They have no enough ability. They cannot become the high school students. They cannot go to the top level high school, and they cannot go to the such kind, and they cannot understand the class. What the teacher is saying in junior high school, so they cannot understand in the clam school what the teacher is saying. Such kind of the harm is occurred. So that's why, as government, we have to introduce. As government, we have to guarantee the minimum level of academic ability, and we have to provide this ability to the students. That's why, as government, we have to introduce the grade retention. And second point, after taking this proposal, how we can save the academic ability, low academic ability students, is firstly that we can incentivize the students themselves, because they didn't want to study with low. For example, the second grade student didn't want to study with the first grade students. That's why they make efforts. Try to make efforts, and try to after the class, the students try to listen to the teacher. What this sentence means, such kind of the question they can get, and they have incentive to hear to the teacher and after the class, and also they have high incentive to want to, somehow they limit the playtime, but they have a high incentive to go to clam school, or they keep the rationality during the class time. They don't want to. They don't sleep. Such kind of, they try to make efforts, and that's why that we can incentivize the students themselves, and then the students try to catch up the class or something like that. So automatically they make efforts to study, and they can get the minimum standard level. And minimum standard level is not so hard to catch up, because the plus, minus, something like that. So once time they decided, I get the minimum standard level, or I make efforts, they can easily recover their grade. And second point, even if they cannot easily recover their academic ability, even if they make efforts, but we after take this proposal, teacher is more high incentive to teach this kind of the low ability students. That because the teacher care about the reputation from other teacher, care about the reputation of class, or his class is provide his class students. Some student is low average. How the teachers teaching, such kind of the criticism is come from the teacher. That's why the teacher high incentive to care the distribution, and high incentive to teach to these kind of the people. That's why we can achieve the goal. So we are proud to support. Thank you.
Thank you for your speech. Next, I'd like to call up the leader of opposition to deliver a constructive speech within 7 minutes. Here.
Mr. Speaker, we don't destroy the student education, so we are happy to introduce the extra class for those who cannot afford with the current class. So if the grade retention is adopted, the student will be incentivized to study compulsory because they stick out in the new class because they are older than other student, or because they are taller than other student, and so because of the such kind of gap, the student will be suffered by the other student in terms of the bullying and so forth. So such kind of situation is more harmful for the grade retention student. So that is why. So we respect the both sides of the we respect the communication in the school and also respect the academic skill. So that is why we are proud to both. The firstly, the several rebuttal brought against the government side. So they talk about the grade retention. They are now persistent to the grade retention itself. So it is, as I mentioned in my point. So it is counterproductive. That compulsory disincentivize the student to study hard, and also so they furthermore they mentioned that the student, even though the student will be incentivized, even though the student will be incentivized, the teacher. So even though the teacher change the student, because the student why they fail to score a good mark, because some kind of class is very boring for the student. So that is why. So even though the student will be in the grade retention, and also they continue to listen to the teacher, that such kind of lesson cannot be changed, and also student score can't be raised up. So that is why their grade retention doesn't make any sense. So move on to my point. So today we have three issues. The firstly, so what is principal level? So what is the school, and what is the role of the school and the teacher? And secondly, after taking this proposal, so what kind of the harm happened to the student, and why it is very serious problem? And the third point is status quo. So compared to the after plan, so why it is very suitable for the student in the compulsory education. In compulsory education student. So given the 3 points, I'd like to explain them one by one. The first issue is about the principal level. So of course, the school is a place to be educated for the student. However, it is also the place to contact with other friends or the teacher or the other people. So it is very precious places because children are more subjective to observe the other contact with others. So because they are straightforward, because they can get more easily to communicate with others. So that is why there is such kind of so that's why. So we also respect the communication place as a school. So yes.
We didn't ban the communication time. We just introduced the grade retention.
Yeah. However, so as I mentioned in my second point, so we expected some more harm by introducing the grade retention. So so move on to the second point. So they talk about that the grade retention. So based on their argument, the grade retention is incentivized the student. However, firstly, analyze the student characteristic, especially in this compulsory education, right? So they are very straightforward. So they see the one older student or one tall student very strange in the first places, right? So because they stick out in the class, and so other student is a majority and regarded them as a strange person. So once they have seen these people in the school, right? So they make fun of them, and so such kind of situation where there is problematic because of who made fun of them, by them is very suffer because they are the one person in the large classes, right? So their mental suffering is very enormous one, and also they know, even the children know that the grade retention means a foolish student. So they such kind of illness, speak ill of them is very problematic. So and secondary, even though the student don't act such kind of cruel thing, that they cannot. They are not willing to communicate with actively, because so that is why for the student who are separated from the in one class is also suffered from that. So as they continue to that, this kind of because it continues 1 year. So as they continue such kind of situation, the students who are great retention is disincentivized to go to school and anymore. They cannot cannot study and cannot communicate with others. So such kind of thing close the student future in the very early stages. So we say that we introduce we introduce extra class in the instead of the grade retention. So that if the student will is but one of the teacher separately listen to the other student, and it is very beneficial because they can communicate with the same student and same class as even though they are separate from the other extra classes. So that is why they can keep the communication with others. So in both times, in both the academic level and the communicative level, so we are proud to oppose this motion.
Thank you for your speech. Now I'd like to call up the member of the government to continue your case within 7 minutes. Here. Here.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So, in order to guarantee the minimum academic abilities of children, in order to guarantee the future success of children, we must propose this motion. And firstly, let me refute their arguments. Firstly, they said if children get grade retention, then they will be bullied by other children. But firstly, I say that teachers care about the people, the students who get grade retention, and also their parents care about their son who get grade retention. So that's why the harm could be mitigated. And even if they are bullied, but there are some people after the production, which means there are 2 or 3 or 4 persons who get grade retention. So even though it's small, there is a community after the production. So they can get actually friends after the production. So it's not problematic. And secondly, they said extra school is enough, but it's meaningless because students do not have strong incentive to study in extra school, and so this results in meaningless situation. And also yes, let me move on our points. So let me reconstruct our arguments. So firstly, so they said grade retention is very harmful, but because it's very harmful, it's a kind of disaster, so that it strongly incentivizes children to study more, right? So as my partner mentioned, children are incapable of thinking about long-term benefit or future benefits. So, and of course, compulsory education is fundamental thing for guaranteeing children's ability. So it's very important. And for children, the kind of short-term serious harm is important to incentivize children to study more. And this is because, as I said before, they are incapable of thinking about long-term benefit, and we should to show urgent issues like grade retention is effective way to incentivize children. And also they talked about teachers, and teachers' class is boring, but it's not true, and we can improve teachers' lessons quality after the plan adoption, because as my partner already told you, they care about the reputation or evaluation from the other teachers or parents, so that to make class better, in order not to make students who get grade retention, they make really serious efforts to improve their class. So then they make new textbook or new interesting classes, and then they that kind of teachers' efforts make children have be interested in the class, and then children gradually study more and more after the plan adoption. So so that's why we think grade retention is good way. And let me compare the harm of opposition and benefit of our side. So they said, so they talked about after the plan adoption's harm, it is the students who get grade retention. But if we introduce grade retention, then it's very serious. But because it's very serious, we can incentivize children to study more. But sometimes, unfortunately, people get grade retention, but it is good for the students who get grade retention, because to get grade retention means they do not acquire the minimum academic level. So which means even if people feel sad because of getting grade retention, but for them to guarantee their academic ability, it is good for that kind of students, because grade retention gives them to get fundamental basic skills of succeeding in the future. So even if some people get harmed because of grade retention, but the benefit of grade retention, which is provide sufficient skills for children, is more important. So we think grade retention is needed to make children happier in the future. That's why we strongly propose this motion. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for your speech. Now, I'd like to call up the member of the opposition to continue your case within 7 minutes. Here.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We consider problem coming from government side. That in the state school, many children are not good at. Some children are not good at academic ability, and they cannot get the minimum level of education. However, we think we couldn't get the point of the government as to why the government uniquely is necessary to introduce grade retention in order to change the situation. We believe that in our paradigm, we introduce extra class after school, or we distribute the classes according to the level of students, and we think we will do a maximum effort in order to change the situation. We don't think grade retention is rather harmful situation, counterproductive for the children. That's why we strongly oppose this motion. First, I have two substantives from the opposition side. First, I want to talk about why extra class is more effective than the grade retention. I'll explain. Why status quo situation is better than after taking span situation. Secondly, I want to compare the both sides paradigm. Even if we take the best case scenario coming from the government, we think that opposition's our paradigm is better than the government side. I explain one by one. Before that, I have two pieces of rebuttals to the government side. The government side told you that in the current system of education, that all children are automatically to the grade. That's why many children are neglected to study. However, it's not the case. We think that as parents or a parent or a teacher let children to study in the status quo, because if children are lazy and the children not doing the studying, in situation as an actor, for example, parents will let children study at home or such kind of things. That's why we can stop that situation. Also, secondly, children themselves have the motivation to study because children are very happy if they are praised by teacher or if they are praised by other friends. That's why we think that children have a much incentive to study. Also, we think that after-plan adoption rather counterproductive, and after-plan adoption disincentivizes children to study because we think that the children, after taking this proposal, if we let children to do grade retention, in such situation, we put the label on students that they cannot study well. In such situation, children will lose confidence about their academic ability, and they lose incentive because they think that they are not good at academic ability. In such situation, children will be disappointed with their academic ability, so they will stop studying after this proposal. The second point of rebuttal is that they said that their assumption is that if after taking this proposal, children in the state school, children cannot go to the top level of high school because that's why this is harmful situation. But we think this is not important because going to high level of education at high school is good or not is different from person to person. Some children don't want to study after they graduate. Rather, they want to do sports or they want to do music, playing pianos or such kind of things. Many children's demand is different. That's why we think that imposing children to study to do grade retention is rather harmful for the children. That's why we think we should not introduce grade retention. So move on to my arguments. Firstly, I want to talk about why introducing extra class or distributing the class according to the level of students is more effective than the grade retention. I explain one by one. Because I want to show you the characteristic of extra class. Firstly, extra class is that teachers know what area children don't understand or what kind of material subjects children are not good at. In such situation, teachers can make an effort or can do better for children to do better. Also, secondly, the extra class or such kind of class is composed of a small number of students. So that's why teachers can more and more they can care about children better rather than grade retention. However, in the case of grade retention, we think that children just repeat the same thing as the previous year. There are many the children are surrounded by many other students, and teachers don't care about one individual student. In such situation, children don't have a chance to increase or improve their ability. That's why we think grade extra class is better than grade retention. Also, secondly, nextly, I want to compare the both sides paradigm. Even if we concede the best case scenario coming from government, the government side is that if we introduce grade retention, this incentivizes children to study more. And even if we concede this point, we think that our paradigm, we can also improve the children's ability by introducing extra class. That's why we think that this point is not exclusive benefit of the government. However, the harms of grade retention is unique to harm from the government is unique to the grade retention, because we think that if we introduce grade retention after children get grade retention, in such situation, next year, suddenly the children will be surrounded by many strangers, and they don't have any friends, and they will miss the previous friends and the previous year. Also, the children will be stigmatized because they are put a label that he cannot study well. So in such situation, the mental harm will be arises. In such situation, that some children will escape from going to school. They will quit studying because they think that even if they study, they cannot improve their academic ability. In such situation, children will disincentivized by the grade retention system. That's why we think to improve the status quo situation, we think that grade retention is not necessary. We think that introducing extra class or such kind of things is enough in order to make the situation better. That's why we strongly oppose this motion. Thank you.
Thank you for your speech. Now I welcome the reply speaker from the opposition. Here.
Mr. Speaker, the fundamental ability which mentioned from the government side is exactly important. However, so why the government side is still persisted to the grade retention itself, so rather than what we suggested instead of the grade retention. So they fail to prove that why such kind of extra 1 year is very necessary for the student to acquire such kind of fundamental ability, because such kind of thing can be is more likely to be easier. So because it is not necessary to settle 1 year from 1 year to the student, it is counterproductively harmful for the student. We have student study and also student future. So we are proud to oppose the motion. Today's criteria is which side can let the children study hard, harder. So today's government side. So even though the argument still stand, so this benefit of making the children study harder, it can be achieved in our side also. So and furthermore, but on the other hand, they totally ignore the harmful of the grade retention, because it's separate from the same similar class, same familiar class with such kind same separate from the student from the previous classes. So because the bond between the student is also devastated in these cases. So such kind of thing. So such kind of thing will reduce the bullying cases or some other bad situation for the children. So on the other hand, so we are repeatedly talk about such kind of extra classes for according to their ability and or according to the ability or according to what they cannot understand is more effective, because it is more well considered and well organized materials provided for the student itself. So it is more likely to focus on the one specific area that student cannot acquire completely, and so that in that is a very differences between that is a very difference from the government side has mentioned the greater retention cases. So I'd like to clarify today's harm, because the student cannot concentrate on their daily study, or rather they don't want to go to the school anymore because they are separate from, and they don't get along with other students because of the student mental movement, because they are straightforward and they are more likely to make fun in the compulsory education time. Such kind of harm is more than such kind of so such kind of harm can be mitigated in our paradigm. So to set the extra class for those who cannot follow the classes. So we think. So compared to the both sides of the benefit, we outweigh the government side in terms of the education and also the friendship between the student. So we have opposed this motion. Thank you.
So lastly, I'd like to welcome reply speaker from the affirmative to conclude this debate within 4 minutes. Here.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm going to talk about 2 points. Firstly, is that the bully or something that feels stress is occurred or not? The second point, in the first place, the extra class is workable or not, and even if we concede this is workable, comparatively, which can improve the academic ability, I'm explaining one by one. Firstly, the bully cases occurred or not. As my partner mentioned that. As my partner mentioned it, that after taking this proposal, we introduced this graded retention. So several few students in the low class. That's why they can make a small committee, and moreover, they can come back to the previous class during class time and class time. And they can talk with the older friends with each other during the break time. That's why there is no problem. And somehow this stress situation is more beneficial for the students because we have to force the incentivize to improve their academic skill. That's why they have some necessity to improve their academic ability. Academic ability. And second point, in the first with extra class is workable or not. This we cannot understand the extra. What is extra class? They say that they can separate the small. They can separate the class. They can make the smaller number of the class. But in the first, we we cannot understand their workability, but because as our target is that students cannot incentivize themselves. That's why even if the small class, why they try to incentivize, try to improve, and try to hear the teachers' voices, their size of, in the first place, their size of workability doesn't stand, and also why teacher can understand, and also they say that we also can know about each student is the lack of the each student's the luck place. As my model, we give we say that before introduce the grade retention, we give the several tests to the students, and the way we judge we have to give him a grade retention or not. So we also can know about what is his weak point of academic. We can also know, and they say that the lose confidence. So our size plan doesn't workable, but extra class, their size extra class means that they separate by the academic ability, especially their size house also. Even if their size logic is stand, they lose the confidence. They separate the high class level or middle class with low class level. That's why the low class level students also lose the confidence. That's why even if we take their size arguments, their size of benefit or need also doesn't stand. But we can still say that the teacher or the parents didn't want to give the grade retention to the students. That's why other actor can incentivize the students. Therefore, even if they cannot lose the confidence, but our size skill can guarantee the improving the academic ability. That's why our size system is more workable, Mr. Speaker. They want to. Even if they give a letter from other people, even if they lose the confidence, they have encouraged themselves to to recover to the previous class and want to escape from this strange. They want to escape from interstellar situation. Therefore, they can incentivize themselves, and also the compulsory education is based even if you want to maximize their future choices, the compulsory education is more important outside the house. So we are very proud to support. Thank you.
Now all speech is over. お疲れ様でした。